The storm outside was nothing compared to the one inside Richard Hale's chest as he sat alone in the corner office of his once thriving tech company in Portland, Oregon. Rain hammered the glass walls like relentless reminders of everything he was losing: money, employees, purpose, and the last pieces of hope he'd been clinging to. The bankruptcy papers lay on the desk, already bookmarked with signatures from his board. Only his name remained. His hand trembled as he lifted the pen, realizing that one final signature meant the end of his dream, the dream he'd sacrificed years, relationships, and peace for. And yet, beneath all the exhaustion, there was a flicker of guilt that he had let so many people down. He took a slow breath, trying to steady himself, but nothing in him felt steady anymore. If you believe kindness, small miracles, and second chances still matter in this world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps us keep bringing stories like this to you. Richard had never imagined failure could feel this personal. The company he built from a garage startup was collapsing after a year of disastrous deals, an economic downturn, and a failed product launch that drained every last dollar of their reserves. His employees, people who trusted him, had families, mortgages, and dreams of their own, and he was about to sign away their security. The shame pressed on him with a weight he could almost physically feel. He had not slept in 3 days, barely eaten, and the grief locked deep inside him refused to let him breathe normally. Everything he touched seemed to fall apart, and somewhere along the way, he had started believing that maybe he was the problem. Maybe he wasn't as strong or capable as everyone once thought he was. That afternoon, as his office remained dim and silent except for the hum of the air conditioner, he heard faint footsteps in the hallway. He assumed it was his assistant, perhaps coming to remind him about the meeting he no longer cared to attend. But when the door swung open, it wasn't an adult, it was a little girl with curly red hair, wearing light-up sneakers and holding a small juice box in one hand and a notebook in the other. She peered at him curiously, her freckled face full of openness and innocence, the kind that made him swallow the sudden ache in his throat. She told him her name was Hannah, and she explained in a shy, quiet voice that her mother worked in the accounting department downstairs. School was closed for the day, so she'd come with her mother and gotten lost while looking for the restroom. Richard forced a weak smile and assured her she wasn't in trouble. As she stood near his desk, her eyes slowly drifted toward the stack of documents he had tried to hide under folders. She pointed at them with her tiny finger, casually and without understanding the magnitude of what she was noticing. Her innocent gaze stopped on a page containing projected losses, debts, and negative balances. But then, with the simple intuition of a child, she squinted and said something that froze him completely. "Sir, you missed this number." Her small finger tapped on a line in the document, a line that had been incorrectly totaled. The kind of mistake an exhausted, sleep-deprived CEO could easily overlook. Richard felt a strange electricity climb through his spine. He leaned forward, eyes widening as he examined the numbers again. She was right. The subtotal on one section didn't match the actual figures. When he recalculated, pen shaking in his hand, the results stunned him. The actual loss was significantly smaller than what the papers declared. He blinked, almost afraid to believe what he was seeing. He checked the math again, then again, each time arriving at the same conclusion. One wrong subtotal had cascaded into other errors, doubling the projected debt and painting a false picture of total collapse. They were still in danger, very much so, but not hopeless. Not bankrupt. Not yet. Hannah watched him with wide, curious eyes, unaware that she had just saved an entire company from signing its own death warrant. Her mother soon found her and apologized repeatedly, embarrassed. But Richard only shook his head, feeling tears stinging his eyes for the first time in years. He thanked the child with a sincerity so raw it startled both mother and daughter. After they left, he sat back in his chair, staring at the corrected papers with a mix of disbelief and something he hadn't felt in months, hope. For the next several hours, Richard worked with a renewed energy. He called the accounting team, verified every number, recalculated every sheet, and uncovered exactly how the error had slipped through. As the true financial picture emerged, he realized they had enough liquidity to stay afloat for at least 2 more quarters if they made immediate strategic changes. Layoffs could be reduced. A shutdown could be delayed. Maybe, just maybe, recovery was still possible. He began making calls. He spoke to investors with a conviction they hadn't heard from him in months. He pitched a stripped-down version of their next software product, repositioned to be lean and low-cost but high-impact. He called old partners who still believed in him, asking for one last extension, one more chance. And for the first time in a long time, people didn't hear a defeated man. They heard a leader fighting for his people. Over the next weeks, the company began shifting. Departments reorganized, budgets tightened, and the remaining employees, inspired by Richard's revived determination, poured their hearts into rebuilding what they thought was lost. Every day was uncertain. Every step was fragile, but they kept moving. And through it all, Richard kept thinking of that little girl's voice, her small finger tapping the page, her innocent observation that changed everything. 3 months later, their redesigned product launched quietly but effectively. It wasn't revolutionary, but it solved real problems for real people. And it started gaining traction. Slowly at first, then steadily, then rapidly. Contracts rolled in. Investors returned. Employees who had been on the verge of walking out began smiling at work again. And one rainy morning, standing by the same office window where he once thought his entire life was ending, Richard realized he had made it through the storm not because he was strong, but because someone unexpectedly reminded him that even small moments can shift the entire world. He mailed a handwritten thank you note and a small scholarship bond to Hannah, explaining in simple words that her sharp eyes and innocent kindness had saved more jobs than she could ever count. Her mother later emailed him a photo of Hannah holding the letter, grinning with missing front teeth. Richard saved that photo on his desk, a reminder that hope often arrives in the smallest, gentlest ways. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful stories for you. Before the ending, please comment below. Do you believe small acts can create big miracles?